Here we are again, Warrior Wednesday, and we're thinking about Hunter Biden. We're thinking about President Biden. We're thinking rules for thee, not for me. We'll cut down to in just 1 minute. Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. I have a special guest today, Matt Whitaker. Maybe some of you remember him. Might have seen him in the news, maybe in a courtroom, hopefully not, or maybe even on the ice rink playing hockey. So hello again, Matt. It's been a long time. We're glad to have you.
No, it's my pleasure, Michael. I was, when I got your message, I was remembering, all the battles we fought. We helped set up the Iowa Firearms Coalition. My partner, Bill Gustoff, was very involved in that, and Hagenow. And so it's good to see you again and excited to join you on this platform.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. Now, let's cut right down to it. We've got recent news that Hunter Biden has cut what many people are calling a sweetheart deal. It sure sounds like it to me. I don't know if you or I would be that fortunate for these kinds of terms. So I'm a little prickly personally because, in full disclosure, I have an FFL. That is my day-to-day business that I run. I don't know, 70 hours a week, it seems like. And so when we start talking ATF and violations on paperwork like 4473s, people have my full attention. When we start talking about IRS and filings, you have my full attention. So when I read these things today and I researched what was going on with the president's son, I became a little prickly. So why don't you weigh in on this and let everybody know in layman's terms what you see and what's happening here?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's outrageous. I was a U.S. attorney in Des Moines, Iowa for 5.5 years, and then ultimately was acting attorney general at DOJ in Washington, D.C. And this case would have never been done by any other U.S. attorney's office for any other defendant. These tax charges, typically, we're required to charge the highest, most readily provable offense. Those are felonies. You don't plead people to misdemeanor tax charges when they, forgot to or didn't report millions of dollars in income. He seems to have paid those back taxes, and so the appetite for DOJ to go after him because of that, appears to have gone away. But mostly because he's Joe Biden's son. I think the second thing, Michael, is on the gun charge that I find the most outrageous, because, this is a case that, I can't tell you how many defense lawyers I've had come in and ask for a diversion and say, can we just, promise that we'll never do anything bad again and have this go away? And the answer was always no. And in this case, you have somebody that not only, answered his, forms wrong, saying he wasn't a drug user, active drug user, and he was, he also then proceeded to brandish the gun, which under DOJ guidelines say that if you brandish a gun, you can't get a diversion. You can't get any, essentially, you can't get any plea deal. You have to eat the whole charge, which is a 5 with the sentencing guidelines to 7 years. And so, I mean, this result is outrageous. Again, no other defendant in the history of our country has gotten this deal that Hunter Biden got.
Can we back up for just a minute? I think your video froze there for a second when you were talking about the sentencing. What did you say it was?
It's 5 years, 5-year sentence for this charge. And remember, this is a lie and try. These are a lie and try case. You lied on the form when you filled it out, and now they're mostly automatic. I'm sure you still have people that are doing the paper forms, but however you fill out the form to purchase a gun in America, you have to check boxes that say, you're not a felon, you're not a drug user, and he purposefully filled that in incorrectly when he knew he was, and even admitted it in his book. And so he was facing a lot of time, and he gets to, off scot-free.
We've got a situation with no small irony where the person we're talking about here, Hunter Biden, his dad, the president, Joe Biden, recently, I think it was as recent as 15 to 18 months ago, depending on where you find the information, because they did a really good job of hiding it, by the way, a list of no tolerance offenses for people like me, FFL dealers, to lose the license. So I can make an inadvertent, innocent mistake on this 4473 form that everybody fills out to buy a firearm. And depending on the flow of the form, which version you have used at which time over the many years, anywhere from 22 to 30 some fields of information have to be filled out, and you need to double check, right? Or triple check.
Yeah.
So if I've missed one thing, let's say, Matt, you come in, you buy a firearm, and you write down that it's Tuesday the 17th. I'm thinking from yesterday because I'm running behind and very busy, and I write down it's Wednesday the 16th or something, off by one day, revocation of license. And that has happened to people that I know right here in this state, not that many miles from where I'm at right now. So I'm looking at that saying, Daddy is saying, no tolerance, you guys are out for a mistake. And then when it comes to Sonny Boy, you can go ahead and lie. I don't know if he conspired to be rid of the firearm. I read that his girlfriend chucked it in a dumpster, didn't even turn it in or do anything responsible with it. So I really can't speculate a lot on that. But when you circumvent the law and, like you say, brandish, and then what appears to be work to get rid of the evidence, somebody steps in and says, well, if we do this and you get off, it'll save me pardoning you, and that'll look bad for re-election purposes. So I've got to tell you, this thing stinks from one end to the other.
Yeah, it does. And it's a prime example of the two-tier system of justice. And the two-tier system of justice is exactly what you demonstrated with these FFLs and like the zero tolerance policy that they have. And, you know, quite frankly, Michael, I think the thing that is really unfair is I can't tell you how many other Americans, there's thousands of Americans right now that have been charged with the same crime that are in federal prison, many of them African Americans, from poverty and from neighborhoods that are struggling and challenged, that have had to eat these gun charges as a matter of course. And the fact that the president's son can get this unbelievable sweetheart deal. And, I couldn't figure out what was taking so long because this investigation wasn't that complicated. What was taking so long was trying to craft the right resolution to optically make it look like he's getting punished or getting some consequence for his behavior when really he's getting less than a slap on the wrist.
Oh, you don't have to go very far at all to see the headline is Hunter Biden charged. Hunter Biden charged. And everybody's saying that. Well, that apparently must carry some weight with people who are reading it. I'm asking myself, well, actually what happened is, I should say, what I'm thinking rather than questioning is, well, if he's charged with what? And what he's either pled to, or what will he be found guilty and innocent of? Well, the fact of the matter is the fix is in. It's already predetermined. And if he can manage to keep his nose clean for a couple of years, he's off scot-free on the IRS stuff. Now, when it comes to the IRS, I mean, honestly, I might dig myself a little bit of a hole, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How clueless and stupid do you have to be to not know that you need to file your taxes? I mean, the man's 50 some years old.
Yeah.
Who in America doesn't know that? In order to be insulated, coddled, and rich enough, if you want to call those things lumped together as one thing, how bad does it have to be for you not to bother to do that? So we've addressed, it's been addressed that he didn't turn in his filing, but nobody said boo about what that filing contained. Over on another screen here to my right, I've got texts that are coming in from people. Can I read you one real quick?
Sure.
Okay, Richard says, I don't believe Hunter is even being confronted with lying on the 4473, a felony. I think the issue at hand is his illegal possession of the handgun that he purchased with that form. I think that this is a felony, but I understand that he has not pled guilty and he is likely to have the charge essentially dismissed in some manner, not convicted or placed on probation. Thus, he will presumably not lose his right to keep and bear arms. Anybody else would. This is one from Brian. I'll throw this out there real quick. 20 armed IRS agents storm and shut down an FFL on suspicion of underreporting income the same week that the president's son pleads quilts to the same crime on a massive scale, and is allowed to plead to 2 misdemeanor counts. These things aren't adding up. It's when you said two-tier justice system, you're right. Yep. People of color, people of low socioeconomic status always get rammed by the system. They get trounced coming and going. I don't know how to say it any other way. You are so right about that statement.
Yeah, and it's just, this is the hard thing for me as someone that's been sort of a law and order guy, my whole career, and believes in the rule of law and believes in the equal application of the law in the Constitution, and constitutional principles. I can't explain this. This is essentially those that are politically connected, politically powerful. The son of the U.S. president in charge of the executive branch, they get deals and they get off on crimes that no other citizen would get. And that is inconsistent with what our founding fathers' principles were. They did not believe in kings. They did not believe in a royal family. They did not believe in the political elites getting benefits that the rest of us couldn't. And so, I think it's one of the most disgusting miscarriages of justice that I've seen. And to your point, I mean, they're just trying to cover this up with, a snappy headline that actually doesn't explain what's going on here.
Well, you expect these kinds of things from tin horn tyrants and banana republics. You do. You expect these things to come out of third world countries that have a really hard time of getting, achieving, and keeping any kind of justice. And you, like I said, you expect these things to come from crappy little countries that are poorly run and skirt morals and ethics on a daily basis. What we're talking about here, frankly, is the textbook definition of antinomianism. I don't have to adhere to your law, or whatever you say doesn't apply to me. And when we as a nation, when we as a culture get to the point where antinomianism is widely accepted and practiced across the board, I'm really not sure what comes next. It's a frightful place for our country to be.
It is. No, we stand on the precipice of some really awful changes happening right before our eyes. And it is very clear to me that Joe Biden and the Democrats are trying to fundamentally change the nature of our country. They're trying to criminalize Republicans and conservatives. And, I don't know ultimately how this ends up. I know that I'm going to continue to stand and fight and speak out against this. And, who knows what God holds for my future, or even your future, or anybody watching this. But I know that, this country, at least as I believe it was founded and formed and established, is worth saving. And, these wannabe dictators, to quote Fox News, are going to have to, come through a lot of us to ultimately get their, prize.
I agree. I don't want anybody here to somehow hear what I'm not saying, what you're not saying. I don't want them to think that when we point out that Hunter Biden wrote in his book, I've read excerpts. I've never actually read the book or bought it myself.
You have an autographed copy, Michael. We all know that.
I do not. Maybe someday, you never know. It's unlikely.
We might have to all buy them, right? I
mean, well, we may be forced to at some point. I don't know. It's my understanding that there was a period of time where he was drug addled and had all these demons that he was fighting. I don't want anybody to think that I'm pointing a bony righteous finger at people and saying, look what this addict did. I mean, we all have made mistakes. And when it's interesting, when we talk about things as simple as ATF and they're having a no tolerance policy, it's really the opposite of how you get good work done. When there's a problem, for example, with an FAA, a pilot gets out of the cockpit, he shortcuts his checklist by a half minute and forgets something and leaves, and he's out of the terminal. He remembers, he immediately calls and says, this is what I did. I made a mistake. I have to go back. And what does the FAA say? They say, okay, fine. Thank you for self-reporting. Write this down. Here's how we want you to handle it. And then go back and make these changes. And he self-reports corrects it, because what they want is as close to 100% adherence to the rules as possible. Instead, ATF, DOJ, they like to demonize people. They like to try and trip you up. So for anything that they can, it's as if they don't really want our cooperation in 100% compliance. They want to play gotcha games. And each time they do that, the chasm between dealers like myself that are trying to uphold morals and ethics practice daily, that chasm grows each time they play those games. It's the wrong direction to go. And ultimately it costs things in terms of crime or people's lives or whatever else. I don't understand why they don't see that there's a better way to achieve compliance, and which really means safety in the end, because they're doing this all wrong. Matt, you have worked in these circles for years. Is there anything that we should be considering imparting over what's happening? I would really like to understand if you think there's something that we can do.
Well, I think it's a tough regulatory environment for the firearms industry, especially. I talk to my friends all over the country that are involved in this industry, and just, I hear about how much hold on a second. Sorry for the interruption. I got Newsmax trying to call in for my next hit, but this administration is trying to get rid of firearms dealers. It's that simple, and they want to eliminate this industry as part of their way to abandon. Sorry again. The way to get rid of this industry, and it's too bad, Michael, and it's not no electeds are doing it, and it's the people aren't speaking on this. I got to run. I apologize to end it so abruptly, but I got to jump on here.
No, go to your next one. I appreciate it. Again, Matt Whitaker,
Michael,
thank you for coming on. Take care. Thank you.
Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Bye.